Buongiorno tutti quanti, benvenuti a lezione 18 di Italian for Beginners. Mi chiamo Dana Scheider e sarò la vostra insegnante per questa classe. In questa lezione vi parlerò alla fine dell'articolo determinativo, cioè come si dice the in italiano. Ce ne sono 6 forme. L'uso dell'articolo determinativo è diverso in diverse lingue, quindi discuterò anche dell'uso dell'articolo determinativo in italiano. Parliamo anche dell'aggettivo bello. Le forme e l'uso di bello hanno delle cose in comune con quelli dell'articolo determinativo. Cominciamo con il dialogo a pagina 57. Questo è nel vecchio libro, la sesta edizione di Prego. Io ve lo leggo prima. Cercate di capire senza leggerne la traduzione. Poi sottolineo gli articoli determinativi, così vedete di che parliamo. Allora, Donatella. Ecco la nonna e il nonno, la zia Luisa e lo zio Massimo, papà e la mamma molti anni fa. Buffi, no? Giovanna. E i due in prima fila chi sono? Donatella. Sono gli zii di Chicago. Ed ecco gli articoli determinativi. Allora, the definite article in Italian is something, a little word like the word the in English that comes before a noun to indicate that you're talking about one specific thing. It's the difference between a car and the car. So in English, we have only one of them. We have the. In Italian, there are actually 6 forms of the definite article, and they depend on the gender and number of the noun that follows the article, and also the letters that the noun starts with, or whatever word comes after the article starts with, as we'll discuss a little more in a few slides. So these are the forms of the definite article in Italian. You can see that there are several of them, and some of them are the same. So for example, L apostrofo, the L with the apostrophe, is both masculine and feminine depending on the gender of the noun. So we could have l'aereo, which is the masculine form, or we could have l'aula, which is the feminine form, and what determines it is just that the noun starts with a vowel. The plural of those articles is then different depending on whether it's masculine or feminine. Articles in Italian tend to be a significant learning curve for people just getting started. It's extremely overwhelming to be told that there are 6 ways to say the, and you have to pick the correct one each time. But I promise you, it's not as bad as it seems. As long as you get your practice in, you'll start to get used to it and it will become automatic. So let's talk about this a little more, some of these forms. Il, the article il, whose plural is I, comes before nouns that are masculine and that start with most consonants. That most we're going to talk about in a slide or two. So il cinema, il bar, il ristorante. Those are some of the kinds of nouns that will start with, that will use il, and then I cinema would be movie theaters, or I ristoranti would be the restaurants. Now lo Lo is what happens with the consonants that aren't covered by the most. The article lo, whose plural is li, is used before masculine nouns that start with z, s plus a consonant, ny, or l. So lo zio. What would be an example of a noun that starts with S plus a consonant that's also masculine? I'm having trouble thinking of one. Lo gnocco, gli gnocchi would be a useful one if you like gnocchi. Lo stadio, there's an example, stadium. Lo stadio or gli stadi. Now, la, we'll talk about la, which is the feminine article. This is used before nouns that are feminine and start with a consonant. Feminine nouns are a little bit simpler than masculine nouns article-wise. So any noun that's feminine and starts with a consonant will use la in the singular and le in the plural. Now we have the L apostrofo. The article l is used before all nouns that start with a vowel. If it's masculine, the plural is li, and if it's feminine, the plural is le. So let's give some examples here. So this is how the singulars and the plurals work together. I know for an English speaker, it's hard enough to contemplate masculine and feminine words for the, let alone having different ones for singular and plural. So I want to kind of go into how this works. Il libro, the book, would then become I libri, the books. So the article il in the singular becomes I in the plural. Lo zio, the uncle, then becomes gli zii, the uncles. So lo in the singular becomes gli in the plural. You can say l'amico, the friend, the male friend, becomes gli amici, which is the friends, referring to a male or mixed group. La macchina, the car, becomes le macchine, the cars. And finally, l'automobile, which is feminine, is also the car, and that becomes le automobili, the cars. So you can kind of see how these different articles correspond to one another. So let's talk a little bit about usage. Every language, like I said before, uses articles a little bit differently, and some languages like Russian and Latin don't even have them. So in every language, it's necessary to learn a little bit about how those words are used in that language and kind of learn to think about it like an Italian would. So in a list of nouns, for one thing, in English, we like to give them all the same article. I'll bring the crackers and cheese. But in Italian, you would need to say, I'll bring the crackers and the cheese. Every noun has its own article. So the way we would say that is, io ci porto I cracker e il formaggio. So, I cracker, il formaggio. The form of the article is also determined by the word immediately after it, which might or might not be the noun that it goes with. So I may have lied a little bit about that earlier. When I said that it depends on how the noun starts, it actually depends on whatever is right after the article. So that could be an adjective, or in some cases, something else. So, for example, il tempo means time, but we would say lo stesso tempo, the same time. Il tempo, because tempo starts with T, but lo stesso tempo because stesso starts with S plus a consonant, so we use lo. Same with la ragazza, you use la because it starts with a consonant. On the other hand, l'altra ragazza, we use l because altra starts with a. And so we would also then use le altre ragazze, since that's the plural of l when it's feminine. So here are a couple of other differences with English. Italian tends to use the definite article a little more than in English, I want to say. And here are some of the cases where it does. So, first of all, before any noun that expresses an idea or an abstract concept. In English, we like to talk about these things without the definite article. So we say patience is a virtue, but in Italian they would say la pazienza è una virtù. La pazienza. And it's the same with any other noun like that that's an abstract concept. Generosity, anything like that, you're going to use the article with. Italians also use the definite article before nouns that express a category of things in general. So where we would say dogs love people, meaning dogs in general love people, in Italian they would say I cani amano la gente. I cani. Italian also uses the definite article before the names of languages. There is an exception to this, which is when the language comes directly after parlare or studiare. So it's okay to say in Messico parlano spagnolo and leave out the article there. That's like in English. Daniele studia francese e portoghese is like English as well. However, if you're going to say something like Japanese is a beautiful language, it's not quite like that in Italian. They would say il giapponese è una bella lingua. Il giapponese. So most of the time when you are talking about a language, you'll want to make sure to use the article with it. So here are a couple other things. Before titles, when you're discussing someone in the third person, titles like professore or signore or dottore have articles go with them. So you would say la professoressa Villoresi è molto intelligente. So instead of saying Professor Villoresi is very smart, like we would say in English, in Italian we'd say la professoressa Villoresi è molto intelligente. On the other hand, if you were talking to her directly, that wouldn't be the case. If you were talking to her directly, you would say it like we do in English. Professoressa Villoresi, lei è molto intelligente. Professor Villoresi, you're very smart. In most cases, we'll use the definite article before the names of countries, states, regions, large islands, mountains, and rivers. Don't necessarily commit that list to memory. And don't worry too much about in most cases, because we're going to cover in future lessons what the exceptions to this are. But here are some examples. Visito il Portogallo in aprile. I'll visit Portugal in April. Il Tevere è un fiume che scorre per Roma. The Tiber is a river that runs through Rome. That's the same as in English, the Tiber. La Sardegna è molto bella in luglio. That's Sardinia is very beautiful in July. So in Italian, instead of saying Sardinia like in English, la Sardegna è molto bella in luglio, because La Sardegna is a large island. Il Colorado è uno stato degli Stati Uniti. Colorado is a state in the US. So again, it's il Colorado, where we would say Colorado. Generally speaking, let's see, cities and towns don't require an article, and small islands don't require an article either. So again, that's stuff that we'll continue to discuss in future lessons. Articles, on the one hand, are extremely basic, but on the other hand, there's something that even advanced speakers of foreign languages tend to struggle with. I mean, if you've probably heard someone with a foreign accent say something like "get in car," and you're thinking "get in the car." That's pretty basic. Get in the car, but it's not basic to that person at all because their language may not have an article or have ever heard of such a thing. And so, yeah, you will continue to make that kind of mistake for some time to come. It's just important to try and learn it as best you can and improve over time. So there's one more really important thing that I want to cover with the articolo determinativo, and that is expressions with days of the week. So you can use a definite article with a day of the week, and when you do that, it implies something that happens on that day every week. So I could say il mercoledì sera gioco a Dungeons and Dragons. Il mercoledì sera means Wednesday evenings I play Dungeons and Dragons every Wednesday. On the other hand, if I just say mercoledì sera gioco a Dungeons and Dragons, that would mean this Wednesday I'm playing Dungeons and Dragons, and other Wednesdays maybe not. So that's an important thing to know, that when you use an article with a day of the week, il mercoledì, il sabato, la domenica, that refers to that day of the week every week. All right, let's talk a little about the adjective bello. In general, bello is going to come before the noun it modifies. When it's used in that way, it has the same endings as the definite article, and I've got a little table on the next slide to show you what those endings are and how they kind of work with this particular word. When used after a noun, bello behaves like any other adjective. So, to be a little more specific, bello usually comes before the noun if it's by itself, and after the noun if it's modified by an adverb, or sometimes if there are other adjectives as well. So you would say, è una bella macchina. It's a beautiful car, it's a nice car. But you could also say, è una macchina molto bella. And that's typical to when it's modified with an adverb. It's also possible to say è una molto bella macchina, but I just have not heard that as much. È una macchina molto bella. So here are the forms of bello and how they work. You can see that this is basically the same table as the one that I used for the definite articles. So bel and bei are the first forms. So un bel ragazzo, or bei ragazzi. One thing that I should add that's kind of a usage note on bello is that we say that bello means beautiful, but it's used for both men and women in Italian. So un bel ragazzo is a good-looking guy, and una bella donna is a beautiful woman. So un bello studente would be the next one. So this corresponds to lo and gli. Un bello studente, or begli studenti, and that's because studente starts with st, so it follows the same rules. Bel and begli would be for masculine nouns that start with a vowel. Un bell'amico, begli amici. Bella and belle would be the main feminine forms for nouns that start with a consonant. Una bella ragazza, or belle ragazze. and then bel and belle for feminine nouns that start with a vowel. Una bella amica or belle amiche. And that's pretty much what there is to say about bello. So let's talk about the homework and the next lesson. So the homework for today is the esercizi on page 60. This is in the old book, so we'll be using the old book for the rest of capitolo 2. There's only one more section left plus the vocabulary, so I decided that chapter 3 would be a clean break for starting the new book. So page 60, and the exercise key is in the description to the video. The next lesson will be about plurals. So we've already talked a little bit about how nouns form their plurals, but there are some kind of open questions that you may have noticed if you've tried to dig into plurals at all, where it's like, well, what about this word? It's a little different. So we're going to talk a little bit about those things in the next lesson. So I hope you found this lesson useful and that it's helped you understand how the definite article is used in Italian and how bello is formed. If you found it useful and would like to continue watching the series, please subscribe to my channel so you don't miss the next one. Yes, keys to the exercise are in the description to the video, and if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. As usual, corrections from native Italian speakers are also always welcome, so please drop those in the comments as well, and I'll call them out in the next video. See you next time.